Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and if you look across Reddit, Twitter, everywhere, for like the past week since the expansion launch, there's been a ton of talk about Zilliax and does it need to get changed? Do we need a Hall of Fame it? Send it to Wild early? I'm gonna go on our first deep dive into the standard meta since the launch of Perils in Paradise, how things are shaping up, talk about the elephants in the room, the Zilliaxes of the world, but just want to go over how this to me has been one of the better launches we have had in quite some time, and something that I hope that maybe we can see happen again. That'd be great. And as always, if you enjoy the content on the channel, feel like I've earned your subscription, please hit that sub button down below. Give the video a like, it helps us out a lot as we're on the road, I guess, now to 85,000 subscribers. Thank you guys, we had 84, super grateful for that. Thank you for the support. So, looking at HS Replay front page, which is always terrible metric, but I start there to give us a basis. Normally, lately with expansion launches, we see one or two classes in the green and everything else suck, right? I think last expansion launch, Paladin was just busted out the gate, and then it was Demon Hunter was busted after that, and then after that it was Warrior, and then it was Druid, right? Everything kind of went through that. Right now, at least front page wise, we have 7 classes in the green with a positive win rate, and the bottom 4 not being super far off. Priest is within 10%. Rogue's down here, but Excavate Rogue's hit rank 1 lately. Lamplighter Rogue is good. There's some decks out there, but Hunter has definitely been struggling. But pretty much every other class, I guess, no, Mage actually is a playable deck, has something to do, right? Which is really awesome to see. If we look at the meta itself at Diamond through Legend, there is so many decks. This is usually what it looks like after a day or two. We're almost at a week, and it's still consistent. So you got tier 1, we got Blood Paladin, Pirate Shaman, some aggro decks. I might do a video on Pirate Shaman. I don't know if I'll have recorded one for later today, but maybe tomorrow. I haven't tried that out yet, so maybe we'll do that. But then you have Elemental Mage, which uses this card, the Lamplighter, which we'll talk about. Might be an issue. Pain Warlock's still there, so an old deck. Handbuff Paladin's still there, old deck. I think the only new card is Sankazel, which has made the cut now into those decks. We got Pirate Demon Hunter, which is a new deck. Dragon Druid, which I think is the Concierge Druid, so it's a hybrid of a new deck. Elemental Shaman, again, boasted by Lamplighter. Really busted Elemental Rogue, boasted by Lamplighter. Zarimi Priest has some new tools. They've been using some of the Hunter cards. Mining Paladin's old, Secret Hunter's old. But yeah, Combo Druid, maybe that's more, no, that's a more streamlined combo deck. Rainbow DK, Mech Warrior, Insanity Warlock, Virus Control, that's a lot of decks that are at the point of playability, at least Diamond through Legend, and at the fringe, you got Spell Mage, Ramp Druid, Highlander Warrior. But it's crazy, with all the decks as playable as it is, a lot of the talk is around Zilliax, because I feel Virus Control Warrior and the Druid deck that uses Zilliax dictates a lot of that. If you note these decks, they're almost all very aggressive, right? They're either aggressive or they're combo decks, because the Virus module that comes online, no board-based deck can realistically win. You can't really out-control it for the most part either. It's really hard. Rainbow kind of can. That's why it's playable, but most decks just can't deal with that. So the meta, there's a lot of options, but there's a lot of aggressive options, and the same goes at even Legend rank, very similar. You're gonna see a ton of decks, again, Virus Control in the exact same spot, and that's where the concern comes to me, is a lot of the newer cards aren't performing super well, but I feel it's because of how warped this meta is, where you just have no choice but to try and beat Zilliax, whether it's through a combo or through pure aggression. I've heard arguments of don't even, nerf Zilliax, just buff everything to be better. That's not the way to go. The best buff to everything is to see a meta without Zilliax dictating so much, because I feel more mid-range and control decks could be in this mix if Zilliax wasn't there locking everything out. And if you look, it's in 70% of decks. It is an insane card, but there's also the ticking module, which is also something you might want to look at. Overall, you look at the meta, there's tons of stuff to do, even at HS Guru with more specified numbers up at Legend. It's pretty wide what you can do. At High Legend, there's a lot of Concierge Druid, but overall, I do think that we do need a balance patch. We're likely getting one next week. They said 10 to 14 days, so they'll probably start discussing it this week. And I did want to go over what I would like to see get changed. I don't want to see buffs this early because, again, we don't know what really is bad until we see a meta without Zilliax dictating everything, because I feel like a lot's being held back. You probably want to wait on buffs for the next patch. I'm certain we're going to get some, but I feel like the first patch would be way too soon. But the cards that really stand out to me that have just been a little too good, and it's taken a bit to develop, but Concierge, she can enable those OTKs as early as like turns 5 and 6. It doesn't happen a lot. The high roll feels bad, but it's a ridiculous card. It just is. The amount of mana you can cheat with her. Obviously, you know, I would love for it to say not less than 1. I know Blizzard is allergic to these things and would start probably making it like a 4 mana 4/4, something like that. But it is a card that I do think, like, again, creates really negative experiences. And if we dial back a Zilliax, this could like be even more dominant, right? Like, it's really been getting better and better as we've gone along. Rainbow DK is like a deck where I feel like won't get nerfed now, but afterwards, I just want to put on the radar that this card is insane. Horizon's Edge is so much damage. I wouldn't nerf it now. Death Knight's not in that realm, but just a card to have on that radar that's really good. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. But yeah, really what I think a lot of us are concerned about, a lot of the frustrations is a deck like Zilliax Warrior with, again, the virus module there with Elusive, Poisonous, Reborn, Divine Shield, Taunt, Lifesteal, Rush, and then you bring it back with Inventor Boom. You bring it back with Hydration Station. You can't die because you're healing. They can't hit you, and you just get endless presence, and it's super hard to remove. It's super freaking good, and you can't like just make it the virus module another mana. There's only a few options I feel like they have. First, the most drastic one I hear about all the time is just Hall of Fame the card. Put it in Wild, retire it. The card's cool. All the other parts feel pretty great. Ticking module, I'll mention, probably overtuned still. I keep wanting to say with the ticking module, I wish this costs like 4 mana instead, but said cost 1 less for each friendly minion in play. I just hate that you get punished for having minions on the board by this card. I don't know. I'd rather it be on your side. Regardless of that, besides, like, again, sending it to Wild, which I would never do. I don't agree with that take at all. You can take Taunt off of it, right? You could get drastic and take Taunt off the Perfect module, and then you can't resummon it. You could also take like Elusive or Lifesteal. You'd have to take one of those keywords off, I feel like, to make this card not oppressive in these decks. However, there might be a better way to go of it where you don't even nerf the virus module at all. Like, that might be the best option. Whereas all the decks where it's like really obnoxious in what they do is Druid and Warrior, because they bring it back. So why not make that worse, right? Hydration Station. You can have resurrect 3 different of your highest cost taunt minions, right? You can only get 1 Zilliax back. Also forces you to run more than just 1 taunt card, right? Druid does have Fi and all that, but again, I feel like that's more in the spirit of the card to get different taunts back, and the same would go, why not for Inventor Boom? Resurrect 2 different friendly mechs that cost 5 or more, so you can only get 1 Zilliax back. Still be powerful, probably competitive, but you don't kill Zilliax. You see how it works out. That just gave me a bit of epilepsy warning after the fact. But regardless, I feel like that might be the better way to go for Zilliax, is just make it so they don't endlessly bring back only Zilliaxes. They get the one, which is still really good, but maybe it allows other decks to compete. So that would probably be my first step. See how that goes. And then again, if it's a problem, I guess you have to look at other stuff. And the other big thing that a lot of people bring up is the other elephant in the room, which is the whole Lamplighter thing, which Lamplighter has enabled like every elemental deck to be playable because this card's broken. I initially made a tweet saying, you know, if Shadow Step gets another card, makes any other deck playable through Shadow Step. And yeah, Shadow Step's a big part of it. And you guys know, I just want to see a Hearthstone world without this card. It's been over 10 years. Every other class has had to do something different. Why not Rogue, right? It's kind of wild. regardless of that, this card is pretty busted on its own. It turns every even mid-range deck or aggro deck into an OTK enabler where they're running bounces now, right? Like that's where it gets toxic, where you're running like Saloon Brewmaster in your token deck just so I could play Lamplighter, bounce it, play Lamplighter, and I'm dealing like 20 damage on turn 10, which again, I don't think is probably the most healthy thing for the game. I don't think you kill the card, but I do think it's a card that probably goes to like 4, and if it goes to 4 and you shadow step it, it no longer goes to 1, so Sonya doesn't make it 0. So again, 2 cards that I can't stand right now that constantly ruin other cards will probably have a say in ruining more cards. And Lamplighter is, I don't see it staying the way it is. Like, I just can't, especially if, you know, Zilliax gets hit. So that's the card that's really heavy on my radar. The only other thing I would say is stuff like Mining Rogue or like Handbuff Paladin that you know that we'll just go back to, that we've seen over and over and over again. It's where I want to say like Sonya should go to 5, or just why not send Shadow Step to Wild? I just keep wanting to say that, but yeah, like a deck like this, or again, Handbuff Paladin with the whole lifesteal weapon going on. I know people are really sick of Painter's Virtue, and maybe that loses a durability, loses lifesteal, goes to 5 mana. Those are all the main options I see for early balance decisions. And yeah, I don't want to talk about buffs and ideas like that, because again, we don't know what a meta looks like without Zilliax dominating, and we don't know what stuff could possibly come up. Buffs often lead to the card getting nerfed later and are better suited for when you have more data, more time. But obviously there's a bunch of cards, especially in Hunter, like Gilly. Those decks aren't doing great. A card like Death Roll is not phenomenal, and there's a ton of cards you could, the big demons, but Demon Hunter's doing all right. I don't love looking at that. Again, I feel like that's later down the road. Just dial stuff back, see how things go, and then, you know, have a big buff patch. Buff like 10, 15 cards like they've been doing normally. But I guess the other elephant in the room I forgot to mention, Pain Warlock. I always just feel like mass production's too good, and I know that that deck is really strong and doesn't run a lot of new cards, but also something to consider. So yeah, let me know how you're feeling about the meta, what you'd like to see get changed and all that. I don't think we're expecting a balance patch this week, but just thought we'd go through our deep dive like we usually do, and I might have an updated best decks video in the next couple of days to give you guys some more ideas to play, because the meta has changed so freaking much just over the last few days. So we'll probably have a best decks video in a couple of days, and tomorrow we'll let you know how to get some free stuff. There's free stuff coming tomorrow. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.